we're hopping into part two here.
Hey, I'm ready to go. I think I mean, I really appreciated you posting it very quickly because I went back and I looked,
Yeah.
and I looked at, and when you asked a couple of questions, I gave too much information that was detail oriented because I'm a very detail oriented person. For just the way I was raised, the way I
Sure.
was throughout my life, the Marine Corps, and taking care of business. If a lot of people don't realize that if you pay attention to the details and the small things, the big things take care of themselves.
Yeah, for sure.
And I really. And the funny thing is, real quickly, is some people will ask you a story or a question that they want an answer to, but if you don't preface that with details to the front, then you tell them the story or the answer they want, and at the end they go like, "Well, how did that happen?
Yeah.
Or,
Right.
well, how did that come about?" Well, then you go back and you start all over again to get
Yeah.
to the point. So it's like it's like I had somebody one time I was telling them, I said, it's kind of like kids. They don't start out with a letter J, K, L, M, N. They start out with a letter A
Yeah.
and
Uh-huh.
they work their way through the alphabet.
Yeah.
It's like, because if you don't start out at the beginning,
Yep.
how, so, but I learned a lot. I learned a lot from that. And I appreciated it very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, and I felt like at the end of the conversation, there was more that I kind of wanted to probe into and explore because sometimes we kind of run away, which is totally fine. That's the reason why. This is kind of a blank canvas. We go into it, we have these ideas, but there's
Sure.
such a robust story that you have that I felt like I wanted to kind of pick at some of the layers of that. And so let's hop back into it. We'll kind of have this be an addendum part two. And I'm curious, the one thing about being alive and being an inspirational force as you are is that we have to have risks. We go through risks in life. What do you think the biggest risk that you've taken in your life is?
Wow. I Getting married. I don't know. I don't. I think that depending on how you look at it and how you handle it, Joe, everything's a risk,
Yeah.
and that whether that's getting in your car or, well, I remember driving a semi with 80,000 pounds on it through the mountains, where every truck was in the ditch or jackknifed every truck. I drove all night, and I don't know why. God was with me.
Yeah.
I mean, when you hit the curves and they're on the mountain and they're banked in. If you go too slow, they slide down inside. If they go too fast, they go up off the edge and they jackknife. I don't have an answer. Boy, that's a good. Uh,
Yeah. No, I get it.
what's a
No, yeah, I get it. What do you think? What mine is?
Yeah? What's the biggest risk you ever took?
That's wild. Sometimes I ask these questions and I don't put it back on me. Sometimes I will and it'll catch me. Probably, probably at the end of the day, making sacrifices. I have a son that's on the spectrum, and I've had to make some sacrifices with people and things in my life that just were not unconditionally loving me. And I had to decide that I had to protect what I love the most. And I think those are risks that we take in life. We have to decide what's the most important thing in our lives. And you know this well. You've gone through enough in your life that sometimes the rest of the world just doesn't understand it and you got to leave them behind.
Well, I think taking from what you're saying is that I think the biggest risk you take can be depend on the time
Yeah.
or the time of your life or what
Uh-huh.
the product is,
Yeah.
whether it's a child, whether it's your own self, safety wise.
Yeah.
So I think that's a very broad question that has a million answers to it.
Yeah. It does. And sometimes I'll ask that specifically in a business sense, because there's some people that move all the way across the country, or they decide to take a job, or they decide to invest in this, or they decided to do this when they weren't sure it was going to work out, like a job that was new
Right, right.
and that, those kinds of things. But yeah, when you look at your life, just like you said, marriage, having kids, buying that house, there's so many things in this regular kind of blue collar existence that you do that is risky.
Well, I thought about something that you're mentioning here. This is after this came up in another podcast, and I have probably started between starting businesses, changing locations, changing directions of the business in my life because of what I've been through physically. Um, the number of moves that I've had to make between marriages, jobs, things I've done is probably pushing 40 plus,
Yeah, yeah,
maybe closer to 50.
yeah,
And I just I think you have to put your heart into it and really give it all you got. And I just had a gentleman send me an email uh, um, asking me. He's out of India, and he asked me about a comment I made uh, regarding. He said, "What a crazy comment. I mean, not a crazy. It's a very interesting comment." And I said something to the effect of, I don't think most people realize, and we may have talked about it. I don't think most people realize the value of life and the value of life and time put together until they've been dead because it gives you a different concept of life and time. And anyhow, he made a comment. He said, we talk. I mean, well, I'll respond to his email. It just came in right before we got on, but I think that that's something that most people don't have,
yeah,
and some that do have it, Joe, don't realize it.
yeah,
It's woe is me. Oh, I'm terrible. I've fallen down. I can't get up. I'm paralyzed. I've got this. I don't. I just personally, me, I don't care.
yeah,
Move ahead.
yeah.
Suck it up. And maybe that's too hard for some people to hear that. But in reality, that's the way it is.
Yeah. I talked to a medium at one point about a month ago. I had an interview, and I've been really intrigued by everybody that I talked to that's seen the other side. Like, what does that feel like? What's the white light feel like? And I always hear this unbelievable level of comfort from the other side. Like, you enter this almost nirvana realm of comfort. And we kind of took the conversation a little further, and she was talking about how at some point she knew how many people were waiting to get a soul in their body to come back down here, what kind of a gift it was to become a human being, those kinds of things that a lot of people don't think about on a regular basis. But I've absorbed that through so many of these conversations that I've had with people where it really is a gift. We've been plopped into this meat suit, and we're on this planet, we're on a spiritual, we're on a whatever journey you want to call it. We have been picked, and every single one of us that are down here, we all should feel that this is something that's a privilege to be here.
It really is, and share that privilege
Yeah,
by helping others. And in a comment I'd like to make quick about the three times that I feel I was dead. I mean, I was gone. The first time was very, very violent. The second time was I was ascending into heaven, as I mentioned, and I could hear voices. Whether they angels, I felt calm, but I didn't see anything. I didn't. I could look down, and then the third time, everything went dark, quiet, black, um, and it was like a vortex. I felt nothing. I felt calm. I felt peace. I felt like I was moving faster and faster and faster and faster and faster to someplace, but I don't know where that went because in the meantime, they drug me out of the pool. They got me breathing again. Somebody did, or the EMS did. I don't know. But by the time that all happened, it had to be 10 to 12 minutes by the time, because I was under 7 or 8 minutes before they even started to get me out.
Yeah.
So I think it varies on the person,
Yep.
between drowning or whether you're on fire and it's, and it depends on what you've been through in your life. It depends on how you've been raised. If you've been raised very soft, as a lot of people in this country are now, just, that's the facts.
Yeah.
You know, what a little thing is a big thing to them,
Yeah.
where some people that have been through a lot, a big thing isn't much of anything. It's
Yeah.
just another thing. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah. It's relative. So I was curious before when we were talking. You've had such a varied, interesting existence. So many things have happened. The
Mhm.
brink of life and death, experiencing all these flavors of being alive. If you had a dream tonight and you ran into the 18-year-old version of you and you had a book, a big coffee table size book, and you handed it to him and it was your life and you said, "This is what happened," would that young version of you believe that this was your life?
I would say yes. I would say yes because of the way I was raised.
Yeah.
And your formative years, and I've read this 1,000 times, is the formative years are really from birth through about 17,
Yeah.
16 to 17, roughly. Those are the formative years of your life. And the way I remember I was 10 years old. My dad was 19, or it was 42 years old, and I saw him crying. I was riding on a tractor with him, and he was crying. And I asked him, it wasn't crying like boo hoo, but tears were running. And I said, Dad, what's the matter? Well, we just left my grandmother's house, which was across the pasture from where I lived on the farm, and he had found out that my grandmother's brother, his uncle John, had passed away, and it bothered him. He cried, and I had never seen my father cry, and I was 10 years old, and riding on the tractor, and we're going, up through the farm. And he told me, he said, and someday I'm going to die. And someday you're going to be older and you're going to pass away. Now, I've been going to Sunday school. I learned all that stuff. I knew all that stuff. But to hear it, see the tears from my father riding on the tractor, wow. And I've never forgotten it.
Yeah.
I could have tears right now thinking about it because I remember having tears about that. What Uncle John, and I had met the man, a very nice gentleman, and I could understand how it meant because he was a lot like my grandmother, just a warming, loving person. And I could feel that. So,
Interesting.
wow.
I remember when my dad came from his grandparents came from Italy to Ellis Island, and I remember um, when he lost his father, and he had a bottle of whiskey on the table, and Pavarotti was going loud.
What a way to go,
Well,
huh?
and when I heard Pavarotti, I was like, "Uh-oh, what happened?" I'm looking around, waiting for the other shoe to fall. So I walk in, and he was really upset, wasn't talking much, and all of a sudden, from my room, I heard this guttural bellow come out. He just like this pain was released, and his head went down on the table, and that was my moment. Like what and when you see
Uh,
the pillar of strength in your life, us
mm,
men hold and pound everything down and keep it strong. When you see that breakdown in somebody that's supposed to epitomize this ideal, that's when it hits you. It's a big. But did you have that moment in your life where you realized mortality and it hit you like it hit your dad?
I, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Not, I mean, I can't think of a moment um, because it was snatched from me so fast, in my opinion, from in the Marine Corps. And the only other thing was when I had the feeding auger accident, where I very easily within another couple of seconds would have been a second, I would have been ground up like hamburger.
Yeah.
I I remember being very scared and thinking about it, but I had just turned 17. I was indestructible.
Hmm.
I had made it through it. All I had was a broken ankle. You know, you don't think about the concept that we're thinking about it at your age or my
Yeah,
age.
yeah, yeah.
That puts a whole different light on the subject.
I was kind of a radical, hardcore kid growing up. Didn't have a lot of supervision and just was feral. And I remember going to the skate rink when I was in the eighth grade, and someone explained what hell would be like. If you go to hell, it's forever. And that spooked me. It totally freaked me out. I became a born again Christian. I totally was like, all right, I see the light. I got it. And that's hardcore to get people scared of that. I don't find that to be the way to pull people into theology, spirituality,
Right,
Christianity. I
right.
think
No,
but I do remember that was my moment of mortality where it's like, not only is that hardcore, but we're all not going to be here someday. We're not, none of us are safe. We're all leaving.
we're all temperate. We're a blink in the eye of time.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and I don't. Maybe the only time I thought, come to think of it, about would I be here? Would I stay alive? I don't know. Was when and I think I mentioned to you in the book I've got coming out. There's a picture of a little pad of paper I wrote on to my mom after I came out of my induced coma, after the big coma, the longer coma, and I had written. You'd have, if you looked at it, you can't hardly read it. But once it says what it says, you can read it. It says, "Am I going to live?" Because it's kind of like slopped in there. And I must have still been concerned, was I going to live? I didn't even know I had been in a coma. I didn't know it had been 5, 6 weeks. I didn't know that. So because your time is, it's like when you go to bed at nighttime, you don't think about it. You get up in the morning, it's like, wow, 8 hours just went. And yesterday or 7 hour or whatever, and yesterday I had to shovel snow for 7 hours, and wow, that killed my back. It took forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And time goes so fast at nighttime.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm curious, you obviously remain hopeful about things. Who is that inspiration? Who is that force in your life that allows you to wake up grateful and hopeful for the future?
I don't think there's a specific force. I believe it's my desire to provide, to help, and to do. And I believe it's something within me. God put something within me, or a higher being put something within me at some point, particularly after I broke my neck and drowned and was able to walk, and I was old enough then. I don't think in the realm of all of it and everything I've been through at 18 or 19, when you die very violently, you're blown apart, you're destroyed, you have a different view on what it's all about than you do when you're 12 years older or 13 years older, and you've been through a lot of life. You've been through a marriage. You've been through children being born. You've been through starting jobs. You've been through another death. You've been through a lot. Now, at that point, I just think you look at things a whole lot different.
Yeah, you certainly do. So I'm curious, of everything that you've done and been through in your life, what rises to the top? What's one of the best memories that you've made on this planet?
Joe, I don't know. I I I don't want to say it's being able to accomplish to walk after I broke my neck because it's really more about other people. It's like the young lady that cried in that class that I talked at that told me I changed her life and I watched the tears pour down her cheeks. That just to me is a special moment.
Yeah,
I there's too much I want to say I have done so much in my life and I've never stopped. I mean I am I don't know. I guess I'm ADHD. I'm a multitasker. I mean, I'm always doing this and this and this and this and this all at the same time, all the time, all the time.
yeah,
So even in my wheelchair, even being half paralyzed, it doesn't matter. I'll have this going and that going and that going, and I got to go back. It's thinking ahead because you have to think ahead like that. It's like getting out of bed. I can't just get out of bed like you do. I have to think about this and pull that over here and do this and move this leg and do that. It's a process. So I, I think there's just too many variables and too many different things that I've been blessed with, whether
yeah.
it's watching my first son being born, whether it's, uh, boy,
I get it. You know, it's a lot. There's a lot. So I'm curious. I'm curious about this. If you had the opportunity to go back in your family bloodline all the way back and meet a relative that was probably not even alive or you may have heard about that you could spend some time and talk to, what person in your bloodline would you love to have hung out with?
I had a great, I think it was a great grandfather, three greats, rode for the Pony Express.
Yeah.
And for 5 months of the 6 months that it was in existence. And he used some of that money towards helping pay for additional land for the farm back 150 years ago or whatever it was. And I just think it'd be kind of neat to talk with him about going from pony to pony and boop, 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 boop,
Yeah.
and my brother's got an old horn that was a powder horn still up at the farm that he carried with him. I just think that would be kind of a neat thing. But boy, that's kind of off the cuff. I haven't.
Yeah, it is. It is, and you
Yeah,
answered it very well. So the one thing about being in this world of podcasting is we ask all these questions about our lives, and the backbone of all of this is legacy. Like, what are we doing? What are we leaving behind? And when you look at your life, you've been on the brink of death a few times. You're obviously a survivor. What do you hope your legacy is? When you're not on this planet any longer, what do you hope people remember and feel when they hear your name and think about what you've done?
that I never quit.
Yeah,
That I never quit. That I didn't quit looking at the positives. That I never quit thinking it's possible. That I believe that if you believe it to be true enough and you work at it and you work towards it, you can make it happen. Just that I never quit.
yeah.
I never gave up. No matter what the odds, no matter what the time, no matter what the pain, I never quit.
What do you like the best about doing podcasts? What do you love about this world?
I think it's making me think. I've learned a lot since I was on with you the first time. It makes me think. I've done podcasts now, Joe, since I've been on with you, probably 25.
Yeah,
And I've been on with people that you know, people you've had on here. I've been on with people from India, South Korea, the Philippines, Vancouver or Victoria, British Columbia, Ohio. I mean, all over. And I, 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 I spoke to a gentleman in Ohio about 3 months ago when I was looking at doing podcasts. And after an hour and a half, he said that they about 80% of what they do is business podcasts. They do them for big corporations. But he said about 20% is kind of what we're doing here. And he said, Jay, I want to tell you, you are You're the perfect podcast guest
Yeah.
because you've been through so much. You've done so much. You've never stopped. And it's like when and I told him too, even younger, I can't reflect back very easily because when I do, it's just a mash of a lot.
Yep.
Because I mean, when I had the detail business going, I was flipping cars. I had the trucking business going. I was getting married. I was having the children. I was doing this. I was doing that. I was helping so and so pull an engine out of a car. Oh, have I got time to do this? Yeah, sure I do. And I've never stopped. And when I learned something, whether it was good or bad from whatever project, I just stopped right now at 10 o'clock in the morning. And at 10:01, I'd start a different project. But what did I learn? What did I take from that one I just completed that was positive or negative that will help me further this one in a different direction or better?
Yeah.
And I've just never quit.
Yeah.
And I've recently told my wife about something, and she said, "Well, you never told me you did that." I said, "I forgot all about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I truly did." It was
Yeah.
like, holy cow, I forgot about that. And I had another one. It was like when I was about 10 or 11 or 12, somewhere in there. I spent several weeks during the summertime riding with a guy named Lee Rotifer that drove a truck that delivered Blue Star potato chips up in north central Illinois. And, and, and he went to bars and he went to grocery stores and he had a thing called Fiddle Faddle.
Yep.
And it was like a kind of a Cracker Jack type product, but it was in the back of the truck. But and shoestring potatoes, little shoestring potatoes, all the things. But he would pay me a couple of bucks a day and I could eat anything I wanted. But I rode my bike 7 miles to there to help him. And I'd rode my bike 7 miles home. And he left at dark. I mean, he left bright early morning. I mean, you know, but I'd forgotten all about that. It was like, what a great memory of going out of my way to help.
That's the
So,
I get that. That's my wife. I'll run into the same situation. She was like, I never knew that. And I'm in the same boat. I'm like, there's so much that happens. Our Rolodexes get so full in life, you just bumble into it. But that's the beauty of doing so much, and the mystery and the wonder of being alive is that you can run into these memories, that you have these fresh moments, like it happened for the first time again. You know?
oh, I used to ask people this question. Here's a good question for you to ask. If you could, if you could live, take one of your memories, a really good memory, or a couple of them, and if you had the opportunity to relive them, whether it was the drag strip that you beat Grumpy Jenkins, or you met Farrah Fawcett when she had her swimming suit on, or whatever. Okay, would you rather relive that but never remember it after you've relived it,
Yeah.
or would you rather keep it as a memory?
That's a great question. That is a philosophical fork in the road. Because for me, I always have a hard time watching a movie over and over or reading a book again because there's so much material. Like, I always want a new storyline. I want something. I mean, there's times I revisit. It's not an exclusive thing, but I'm always like in that existential mode. I just want to go to the next thing. So I don't know that my temperament would want to relive it because there's a part of me that watched Back to the Future and understood what happened to Biff. Like, I
Yeah.
don't want to do that. I just want to go keep that line moving forward. So, but that's a beautiful question, Jay. We absolutely ran away with this time again. Have a wonderful holiday season.
Hey,
Keep the faith, and we'll talk soon.
Merry Christmas and have a good New Year. New Year's Eve's my birthday, so
Oh
have one
yeah,
for me.
I love it.
I'll
Absolutely,
be sound asleep, so have one for me.
I will absolutely do that. I'll ring the bell in. Thank you, Jay.
All right, thank you, sir.
See you. Take care.
See you later,
Bye
Joe.
bye. Take
Bye
care.
bye.